Hi, it's me, RachaelLyn, and today on Financial Friday, I'm going to give you an update on my student loans. First of all, let me remind you that I am approximately $172,000 in debt. You can go and watch my story on that and kind of like how I ended up there. There's more to that story, and I think I'm going to expand on that soon. But for right now, that's just kind of a general idea. All of my debt is student loans. I have 3 student loans. One thing you do need to know if you haven't seen my other video is that my loans are currently in rehabilitation. I defaulted on my student loans, which there's more to that story, which is part of the story I'd like to elaborate on and just exactly how I got there. But I defaulted on my student loans, and in January of 2018 I started to try to clear that up, and you have to go through a process called rehabilitation, and that is a 10-month process, and so I'm still right in the middle of that. I'm officially 3 months in. This month, once the payment is applied, will make 4 months. So I'm going to start with my lowest and then go up to my highest, and we'll kind of talk about some things along the way. So first of all, my lowest loan, lowest amount is through Navient. That is $11,779.62 that I currently have since I started paying. The first payment was applied in January. It is, of course, now April. The April payment has not been applied yet, so that's something to take into consideration, but it's almost time to pay, and so most of the interest that has accrued is already on there, plus that payment's not applied. So anyway, as of this week, that is where I am. So one thing that Navient told me was, well, I guess it wasn't Navient, it was whoever the loan servicer is under, because they change hands when it's in default. So one thing that they did tell me was that once I complete rehabilitation and am done with the program and it returns to another servicer, I don't know if it'll go back to Navient or if it'll go to someone else, but once it changes hands again and it's no longer considered in default, they will remove some of the fines and fees that I incurred when I entered into default. They said that the amount of that would be approximately $2,200, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but she sounded a lot more like it would be possibly a little bit more of those fees and things would be taken off once it's completed. My next loan is through the U.S. Department of Education, and that one is my next highest loan, and that one is currently at $61,672.63. This loan, unfortunately, has flagged my taxes to be offset. I talked to them about that because I received a letter that indicated that the tax offset would no longer be applied because I was in rehabilitation. So I waited and waited and waited to send in my taxes because I am supposed to get a refund. I changed jobs, I moved for a new job. I won $10,000 last year, and they took a big chunk out of that for taxes that I would not fall under that tax bracket, but they just automatically take it out. So there's a lot of money that I should be getting back in my taxes. But because I had a flag on my record, there's a number on irs.gov that you can call to find out if you have any holds on your taxes, or if your taxes are set to be offset and basically seized by someone else. You can find out about that, and every time I called, it said that I had that ready to be, like, for them to be taken. But I had received a letter after I entered rehabilitation, and I thought that I was in the clear on not having my taxes taken. And they told me that I am most definitely certified for offset. She made it sound like that doesn't mean that they'll definitely take my taxes, but that pretty much means they're going to take my taxes. She said that it does not clear the offset does not clear until 60 days after you finish your rehabilitation. And she said, no, most people are really confused about that because they think that they're in rehab, so then their taxes won't be offset or anything like that. But that's not actually the case. It's actually 60 days after you finish rehabilitation. So I found the letter that I received. Notification of suspension of Treasury offset attempts. Student loan account number, my number. This notice is to inform you we have requested the U.S. Department of Education, Ed, to notify the U.S. Department of the Treasury, to suspend offset action on the loans listed above. Please understand there may be some delay before this request for suspension takes effect, as Treasury must complete a number of steps to implement this request. If you expect to receive a federal income tax refund, you may want to consider the advantages and repercussions of waiting at least 4 weeks before filing your tax return, or to call the IRS to confirm your refund will not be withheld due to this defaulted federal student loan. Although we have requested suspension of offset action on your loan, please be advised that we will reinstate the request for offset without further notice if the circumstances on which this suspension is based change. Examples of circumstances that could cause this change are: you fail to make timely payments, your loan is determined to be non-dischargeable through bankruptcy, or a determination is made as the collectability of your loan. This notice does not apply to any other federal student loan for which you may have received a notice of proposed Treasury offset from another state or private nonprofit guarantee agency or from ED. If you receive such a notice, you must contact the guarantee agency or ED respectively. This notice also does not apply to additional defaulted federal student loans currently held by American Student Assistance that are not listed above. If you have already been offset, receipt of this notice does not guarantee that we will return any funds offset, nor does this notice mean you no longer owe repayment of a loan. If you have questions, please call a representative at American Student Assistance. So I really don't know what's going to happen. I am prepared for my taxes to be taken. They will be applied to the loan if they are taken, but I was kind of hoping that I would receive that and kind of be able to hold on to that until I'm ready to pay extra on my loans. If you're not sure why I'm waiting to pay extra, it's because I'm not really sure that paying extra while my loans are in rehabilitation is a very good idea, just because I'm not sure how that will affect if I get my loans picked up by a servicer, and if I had that money I could put it towards interest in my bank up until the time that I am ready to actually pay the loans once they're through and no longer in rehabilitation. Alright, the last loan, these are my undergraduate loans that were all consolidated at one time per my parents' request, and my parents are actually helping me out with that as they promised they would when I first entered college. But I still consider them mine because I got my education, I got that degree, and these loans are in my name, so there's not a whole lot that I can really do financially until these loans are no longer in my name. Now, I say these loans, but it's really just one giant loan because they were consolidated quite a long time ago. This loan is held by a company called Performant, and the loans on this one is currently $99,917.31. I found out from them that interest rate is accrued daily, although different loans may do different things. I did not ask about that on my other two loans. I just didn't really think about it. Also, I had forgotten to ask on my U.S. Department of Ed loans if with, they would waive fees and things at the end of the rehabilitation. I forgot to ask them about that. But I did ask them on this one, the $100,000 one. They were, the woman that I spoke with was very sketchy about it. She was very evasive, did not want to answer me in any kind of way, which I found it very interesting because from Navient, although it's not Navient that has the loan anymore, but they basically volunteered that information. I had no idea, and I was like so grateful to the woman that told me this over the phone. But the lady that I spoke to with this other loan, like, she just did not want to tell me anything. She did say that there's a possibility that a 2% difference might be waived. Like, when I entered default, there was an 18% penalty that was tacked on to the loan, and she said when you are finished with default, it is a 16%, or I'm sorry, when you're finished with rehabilitation, then it would be a 16% default. So I don't know about that. Let's do the math real quick on that. If that was the case and they only took 2% off, that would be a difference of $1,998 and about 35 cents. That's less than what the other one gave me, and that loan was less than $12,000. So I'm really confused about this, and they do not make it easy. If you do not have student loans, I suggest avoiding them like the plague, because this has not been fun. Definitely not been fun. And had I paid them back from the get-go, that still wouldn't have been fun. So just don't even get involved if you can help it. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to show you my original projections compared to how things are actually going. So I'm going to transfer you to my computer and we're going to look at my loans there. Alright, here is what my initial projections were for my Navient loans. These are actually now held through Kentucky Higher Education Assistance, and in January my initial total was $12,035.32. My interest rate is 6.8%, and I calculated out my yearly interest rate, and then I divided that out to about $68 a month for monthly interest, and this is how much my new total would be for the next month. But then I also would apply a payment, and then my new total would be this, and then if I made an extra payment, that's what my new total would be. And then later I did like an approximate daily interest rate, but this is not calculated into this. So I took this number right here, and it comes right here, and then I do the same thing again, and you'll see it's the exact same thing on all three of my loans, so I'm not going to go over that again for the other ones. And you'll see here where my initial projected loans would be for April. It should be $11,806.63, at least like at the beginning of the month, with the new month total with all of the interest accrued would be $11,873.53. We are getting close to all of the interest being accrued for April, because it's almost time for my payment, so that's when I consider it like the next month. But down here, this is what I'm actually due, is $11,779.62. So according to this, I'm actually a little bit ahead of my initial projections, which is great. This, unfortunately, is the only loan that I projected as going down, and starting out at $12,000, paying for 12 months, because actually I think I forgot to tell you, but in rehabilitation it takes 10 months and you have to pay 9 months out of the 10 to successfully complete rehabilitation, but it can take up to 60 more days before your loans are picked up by another servicer, in which time you still have to continue paying while as though they're in default, at least paying 2 these people, whoever has the loans. So I just went on ahead and did 12 months in my calculations. So at the end of the year, my initial projections were, said that I would pay off about, about $1,000, which isn't too bad, I think, for this one. But wait, there's more. So going down here to the U.S. Department of Ed, this alone, it's the same setup, and I did the daily interest. I did that like differently, so that's not included in this calculation. So I actually called them for some other reason in March, and I got another total due. And in March, my initial projections were 61. Actually, let's look over here. This is after interest is accrued. So $62,010.11 in March, and the actual amount was $61,466.94. So I'm actually a little bit ahead there. With April, it's $61,795 or $62,145, depending on which one you're going to look at. And the actual is $61,672.63. So again, I am ahead as far as my projections, which is why I didn't want to show these to you until now that I have, an actual amount, and I can kind of compare my projections to, what is actually going on. So looking at this, my loans would start at $61,394.15 in January, and then end up at $63,039.61. It looks like it's going to be less than that. However, it does look like I am still going to owe more by the time this year is over than what I started. It's not going to be a whole lot more, I don't think, but it's still going to be more. And that is just really depressing. I know that I could put extra, and I'm considering that more now, just so that total doesn't keep growing, at least keep it lower. But I'm going to think on that for at least another month, and just kind of really figure out how much of a difference it would really, really make if I made an extra payment right now. And then looking at my undergraduate loans, I definitely won't be paying any extra towards this. I don't know that my parents are willing to do that right now, but this is kind of considered their loan, even though it's in my name, and it still feels like mine. They're kind of in charge of that, so I'm letting them take the lead on this one. It started out at $99,299.92. For April, right now, it should be around $100,461 or $101,068. But it is actually at $99,917. It is definitely up by like over $700 in the last 4 months. It's a lot. This loan is huge. It accrues a lot of interest. I actually have not calculated out the daily interest, and I don't know that I want to. And the interest rate is also higher on this loan, and I think that might be because it was consolidated. I'm not really sure. I had no idea what I was doing or what I was signing when this happened. I just signed papers my parents told me to sign, and here I am. So anyway, the good news is that my projections are more than what the actual is. So it's not growing quite as much as I had anticipated it to grow, but it is definitely growing exponentially. I had heard that loans, student loans, they accrue interest, but that the interest was not applied towards the principal balance, which I thought was a little crazy, and I did not think that information was correct, but I was hopeful about it. And I actually talked to Performant and asked them about that, and they said, no, the interest accrues, and then that's applied to the balance. And I asked specifically, I said, so it's interest upon interest, and she would not answer that question. She would not say that it's interest accruing interest, even though it is. She wouldn't say that. She said it's applied to the balance, and the balance applies. I mean, it took like at least 3 or 4 times around before she would finally admit that the new balance, the higher balance, accrues more interest. Because she would just say the balance. She would say the interest accrues and it's applied to the balance. The balance accrues interest. But she wouldn't say like the new balance. She wouldn't say the interest. She was like, oh no, the interest is not accruing. The interest is not accruing on the interest. It's the balance that accrues interest. But it's previous interest from before. The interest is accruing on the interest. Oh my gosh. It's just dealing with them is just like, this is taking years off of my life, I swear. So anyway, that's where we're at. It's kind of a good news, bad news situation. Obviously the bad news is I'm not getting very far, but the good news is that my projections were a little on the high side, which I like to err on the side of caution anyway, so it makes sense that I would project in that direction. Alright, well thank you so much for watching and just staying updated with me on my student loans. If you are interested in following my debt-free journey, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and if you are already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting me and cheering me on in this journey. I really appreciate that. Also, give me a like for staying on top of my student loans. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about you know, all this. It's so weird, like how one loan is so forthcoming and the other one is so sketchy, and then yeah, it's just really confusing. And then I got the letter that said my taxes will not be offset, but then they are being, and it is just so confusing, and I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying my best, and that is one of the reasons why I'm not paying extra on my student loans while they're in rehabilitation, just because I feel like there's no way to track this. I know a lot of people are able to pay student loans online. They can see their balance and track it that way. I have no way of doing that. There's no record of it. I just have to trust that they are adding on interest correctly, and that they're not just like tacking on whatever they want whenever they want. So yeah, so I need to stay on top of this, and I don't know that I'll do this exactly monthly, because it is quite the process just to call into one loan and then to have to do it 3 times, and it just is not conducive to my work schedule, and it's really, really hard to get a call in, and sometimes I don't reach anybody, and I leave them a message and no one ever calls me back. And yeah, so anyway, just please let me know what you think about all of this. I would love to hear from you. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.